When Jesus is finally brought before Herod Antipas, the atmosphere of the story will once again change in a very unexpected way. Unlike the serious and tense questioning that took place with the religious council and with the Roman governor, Herod's reaction to Jesus will be very different. Instead of approaching the situation with caution or concern, Herod will treat it almost like a form of entertainment. For a long time, Herod has heard rumors about the man who performs miracles, heals the sick, and attracts large crowds wherever he goes. Stories about Jesus have spread across the entire region, and many people have begun to speak about him with curiosity and even admiration. Because of this, Herod may not initially see Jesus as a dangerous criminal. Instead, he will see him as someone capable of doing something extraordinary. When Jesus stands before him, Herod will likely ask him to perform a miracle. In Herod's mind, this may seem like a simple request. If the stories are true, then surely the man standing before him should be able to demonstrate his power. But what Herod does not understand is that Jesus has never performed miracles simply to prove himself or entertain powerful rulers. Throughout the series, the miracles of Jesus have always had a deeper purpose. They were meant to heal people, restore faith, and reveal compassion to those who were suffering. Performing a miracle simply to impress someone who seeks amusement would go against everything that Jesus stands for. Because of this, when Herod demands to see a miracle, Jesus will remain completely silent. This silence will likely confuse Herod at first. He may ask again, expecting some kind of response or action. But Jesus will continue to say nothing. The man who once spoke to crowds with powerful teachings will now stand quietly in front of a ruler who wants to turn his suffering into a spectacle. For Herod, this silence will quickly become frustrating. A ruler who is used to being obeyed does not expect to be ignored. What began as curiosity may soon turn into mockery and disrespect. If Jesus refuses to perform a miracle, then Herod may decide to make fun of the situation instead. According to the story that the series is building toward, Herod and his soldiers will begin to ridicule Jesus. They may dress him in a royal robe, pretending to treat him like a king, while actually mocking the accusation that he claims to be one. This act of humiliation will be one of the most painful moments in the entire season because it shows how easily people can turn cruelty into entertainment. Yet even during this humiliation, Jesus will remain calm. He will not argue, protest, or attempt to defend himself. The silence he maintains will make the moment even more powerful because it shows a strength that does not depend on physical power or authority. Eventually, Herod will grow bored of the situation. Realizing that Jesus will not perform a miracle and will not provide the reaction he hoped for, Herod will send him back to the Roman governor who first brought the case forward. And so Jesus will once again be returned to the court of Pontius Pilate. When Jesus stands before Pilate again, the pressure surrounding the governor will have grown even stronger. By now, the religious leaders have made their intentions very clear. They want Jesus to be executed, and they are willing to stir up the crowd if necessary to make sure their demand is fulfilled. Pilate now faces an extremely difficult decision. On one side are the religious authorities and the crowd they influence. On the other side is a man who does not appear guilty of any crime deserving death. As a Roman governor, Pilate understands that executing an innocent man could damage his own reputation. But allowing unrest to spread throughout Jerusalem could be even more dangerous. Searching for a way to avoid making this decision himself, Pilate may turn to a tradition that takes place during the Passover festival. Each year, the Roman authorities allow the crowd to choose one prisoner to be released as an act of mercy. Pilate may hope that the crowd will choose Jesus, giving him a way to free the man without directly opposing the religious leaders. To present this choice, Pilate will place Jesus next to another prisoner, a man known for violent crimes and rebellion. That prisoner is Barabbas. In Pilate's mind, the choice may seem obvious. One man is known for violence and destruction. The other is known for teaching and healing. Surely the crowd will choose the peaceful teacher over the criminal. But what happens next will shock everyone watching. Instead of asking for Jesus to be released, the crowd will begin shouting for Barabbas. Pilate will likely try to question the decision. He may ask the crowd again what should be done with Jesus, perhaps hoping that someone will speak up in his defense. but the voices demanding his execution will only grow louder. As the shouting continues and as the trial continues inside the council chambers, the tension will reach a moment that could determine everything. After hearing witnesses whose testimonies fail to agree with each other, the authority of the council begins to weaken, and the entire trial risks collapsing. This is the moment when Caiaphas decides to step forward and confront Jesus directly. Instead of relying on unreliable witnesses, Caiaphas will ask the one question that could instantly change the direction of the entire trial. In front of the council and the gathered leaders, he will demand that Jesus answer clearly whether he truly claims to be the Messiah. This moment will likely become one of the most powerful scenes in the entire season because everything will suddenly grow quiet. The accusations, the arguments, and the chaos will stop as everyone waits for Jesus to respond. Standing before the most powerful religious authorities of his time, Jesus will answer calmly. His response will not come with anger or fear. Instead, he will speak with the same quiet authority that viewers have seen throughout the series. His words will confirm what many people have already begun to believe, and in doing so, he will give the council exactly what they have been waiting for. For the leaders who already see Jesus as a threat, this answer will be interpreted as blasphemy. The atmosphere inside the chamber will immediately shift from tension to outrage. Members of the council will accuse Jesus of speaking against their beliefs and claim that his words are an offense that deserves the harshest punishment. In their eyes, the trial will finally have the justification they needed. But while the council celebrates what they believe is a victory, the emotional impact of this moment will be felt far beyond the walls of the chamber. For the followers of Jesus, the realization that their teacher has been officially condemned will begin to sink in. The disciples who once traveled with him through towns and villages will now be forced to face a terrifying possibility. The man they believed would transform the world may soon be sentenced to death. Among those most affected by these events is one figure whose decision helped set this entire chain of events in motion. Judas Iscariot will likely experience a deep and overwhelming sense of regret as he begins to understand what his actions have caused. At the beginning, Judas may have believed that betraying Jesus would force him to reveal his true power or push events in a direction that would ultimately benefit everyone. But now, seeing the seriousness of the accusations and the anger of the council, he may realize that things have gone far beyond what he ever expected. Season 6 may explore this emotional conflict in great detail. Judas could be shown struggling with guilt as he watches the consequences of his betrayal unfold. The 30 pieces of silver he accepted may begin to feel like a heavy burden rather than a reward. In fact, the story suggests that Judas will eventually return to the temple and throw the silver back at the religious leaders, realizing that no amount of money can undo what has already happened. Yet despite the council's decision, there is still one major obstacle standing between them and their final goal. According to the laws of the time, the religious leaders do not have the authority to carry out an execution themselves. That power belongs to the Roman government, which means that Jesus must now be brought before the Roman governor for judgment. This is where the story introduces one of the most fascinating and complex figures in the entire narrative, Pontius Pilate. Pilate is a man responsible for maintaining order in a region filled with political tension and religious conflict. His primary concern is stability. He does not want riots, rebellion, or unrest that could threaten Roman control. When Jesus is finally brought before him, Pilate may immediately sense that something unusual is happening. The religious leaders will present their accusations and demand that Jesus be punished. But Pilate will likely notice that the situation is not as simple as they claim. Unlike the council members who are driven by anger and fear, Pilate may approach the situation with a more cautious and analytical mindset. The interaction between Pilate and Jesus is expected to be one of the most dramatic moments of the season. Pilate will ask the question that has become famous throughout history, whether Jesus truly claims to be the King of the Jews. The way Jesus responds will once again reveal the calm confidence that has defined his character throughout the series. But what makes this moment so powerful is the fact that Pilate himself may begin to doubt the accusations being presented to him. As a Roman official, he is used to dealing with criminals, rebels, and troublemakers. Yet the man standing before him does not seem to match that description. Instead of defiance or anger, Jesus speeds you up. As the story of The Chosen moves into season 6, the events will begin exactly where the previous season left us, during the tense and uncertain hours following the Last Supper. For the disciples, what began as a night of celebration will quickly transform into a night filled with confusion, fear, and betrayal. The trailer strongly suggests that the opening episodes of this season will immediately bring us to the moment when Jesus is arrested, a moment that will change the course of the story forever. After spending years teaching, healing, and guiding the people around him, Jesus will suddenly find himself surrounded by soldiers and religious authorities who have come to take him away. The arrest will likely take place in the quiet darkness of the garden, a setting that contrasts sharply with the crowds and miracles we have seen in earlier seasons. Instead of cheers and celebration, there will be tension,